Welcome to Inside Sponsorship, the show that provides sponsorship professionals with advice, insights and news so they can maximise their commercial programs and achieve best practice.
Everyone is talking about OTT, that's over-the-top content, video delivered over the internet, usually without the involvement of a third party who requires a subscription, such as traditional cable or satellite pay TV providers. In our ever-increasing connected digital world, it provides two outstanding opportunities. And the first is the ability of entertainment rights holders, whether they be sports events or music, who may not have large TV rights deals and therefore be broadcast through traditional channels to large audiences. It gives them the ability to reach and engage viewers they may normally not be able to. Second is the ability for any rights holder to leverage the audiences they engage through OTT services because they have direct access. Add to that the mix that any rights holder can deliver OTT and do so in a way where they can truly deliver a product because they have a deep understanding of their fans that they know their fans want, and there are some real opportunities for rights holders. And where there are opportunities for rights holders, they often flow through to opportunities for sponsors. And those opportunities look very attractive indeed because of the direct access to fans and data that rights holders can provide brands. And trend number 5 in Nielsen Sports Commercial Trends in Sport 2017 is that live sport is gaining traction on OTT and social media. And one man who has been on the OTT trail from the early days, and even by his own admission maybe a little too early, is Chris Wagner, EVP and co-founder at NueLion. For 14 years, NeuLion has been a worldwide leader specialising in digital video broadcasting, distribution and monetization. And NeuLion deliver live and on-demand content to every internet-enabled device imaginable. And later on in the show, Chris joins us to discuss the OTT landscape and how rights holders can capitalise on it. Welcome to episode 50 of Inside Sponsorship. I'm your host, Daniel Oyston. It's awesome to have you listening to this milestone episode where we've delivered a show once a fortnight for the past 50 fortnights. So a big thanks to you, the listeners, who download the show and listen to it each and every fortnight. And thank you for the encouragement and the kind words we always get from you about the show. We certainly love putting it together for you and really focusing on how it can help you in your role. Also joining us on the show is Sam Irvine, SponServe's GM of Product, who, in an ongoing series, ponders his past life as a commercial manager at a rights holder and what he wishes he knew. Then he pens a letter to his younger self. Here's Sam. Sam, have you done all your Christmas shopping yet?
I have, actually.
Wow.
The blessing of online shopping, isn't it?
Putting the rest of the husbands and fathers to shame. And just in case Rochelle listens to the show, what are you getting her?
That'd be a good test, actually. I'm getting her a few things, so too many to mention. I'm going to put too many guys to shame if I list everything on the show. It might actually make her listen to one for one.
Now, another important time of year is obviously work. People are winding down. If you're a sponsorship manager or a commercial manager at a rights holder, perfect opportunity to just wind down, put the tools down,
put the feet up,
pull back from all communications with sponsors, dust the hands off, and you're done for the year, right?
But surely everyone understands, right? Everyone has a cruisy week leading up to Christmas. Isn't that how? If only. I haven't spoken to a single client this week that have said, "Yeah, we're just winding down to Christmas." Funny, right? It's times are changing.
Yes, that's right. And ever-connected digital world makes it hard to actually wind down because you might not be in the office doesn't mean you're not contactable and or working. So, in your ongoing series, you think back to when you were a rights holder, sponsorship manager, commercial manager, and ponder what might have been, what you could have done a little bit better. And this time, obviously, it's at festive time of the year. You've thought back about how you might have handled Christmas a little bit differently.
Definitely. And it's funny, right? I get to be the king of hindsight at this stage, right? And I get to have all the time in the world to go, what would I have done? And obviously, a lot of this stuff depends on your availability of time, your personal relationships at certain levels, etc., right? But what I sort of was sitting around waiting at the airport the other day and I thought this time of year, a couple of years ago, would have been a completely different space and I would have more likely it just used Christmas as an excuse for things to wind down. Whereas looking at best case scenario, it's a great reason to stand above from the pack and actually develop that personal relationship with your contacts as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've gone through, you've listed 5 things. Let's go through them. First one is...
Thank the partner for the enter the number of Christmases together. Now, it might just be something quite corny, a little email, just a little note, even just a text, depending how well you know that partner, right? Just pointing out, hey, this is our 3rd Christmas together. Nice little sort of box to tick, something to identify the fact that you sort of know you've been around, you've been working together, and it's a key time of the year, right? For their family, your work, whatever it might be. You get to sit back and say, hey, we've been together a little while. I've noticed you're important to us. Let's keep working together.
Yeah, I really like this one because it's not just your generic email or card that comes in the post that says, oh, we've had a great year, thanks for being supportive. It's actually specific, and the person, even though it's only small, knows that you would have to have at least taken some time to focus on them and come up with 3 or 10 or 9 Christmases that we've been together.
And even if it's your first too, right?
Correct.
That's something kind of cool to mention too.
Yeah, exactly. And you can always use it as a bit of, not leverage, but a little bit of a talking point to say, looking forward to, another year and being able to tick off another Christmas together. Great. So thank the partner for the number of Christmases you've been together.
Yep.
Number 2.
Summarise what a great year it's been, right? And what I mean by this, as a bare minimum, give them a delivery report with some photos, some evidence, things like that. At a bare minimum. But why not create a little bit of flair, a little bit of colour, add in some Christmas themed sort of images, whatever it might be, right? But just go through and say, hey, here's some of the cool things we did together this year. Here's some of the milestones that we passed together. Here are some of the things that maybe that sponsor did without you. So if they launched a new product, whatever it might be, there's things that you get to go and identify what a 12-month, 6-month, however long it's been so far in this year with them. You get to sort of identify to them those really big peaks that you've had together.
Yeah, definitely. Number 3.
Provide a small personalised gift. Now, this is obviously dependent upon budget and dependent upon how well you might know that particular person and timing, right? If they've only come on a partner for a month, time might be limited in that space. And what I mean by personalised isn't an engraved pen or an engraved mug, those types of things, right? It's not a pair of socks with your name sort of printed on it. What it is something that symbolises your knowledge or understanding of that person as an individual. Now, I might use a couple of personal examples here, and these people will probably know who I'm talking about. One of our clients, she's a massive lover of podcasts, and I said to her the other day, podcasts cost money. I would give you a $10 voucher for podcasts for Christmas, all right? And so, because it's something that her and I will have a lot of deep conversations about. We'll recommend different podcasts to each other and things like that. And straight away, if I had received something like that back from her, it would make a big difference. And it'd go, hang on, she understands what I get, what I understand. Yep. Similarly, music. I've got a few of our clients that go to lots of events. Why wouldn't you sort of shell out a $20 voucher for Ticketek, something like that? It doesn't have to be huge, and it doesn't have to be something where you've bought them an outright gift, but you've identified that you understand, you know them, thinking of them, they're important, the relationship's important, etc.
Yeah, and I think if you could somehow, if you've got the ability to bring together number 2, which was summarise what a great year you've had together, and 3, provide a small personalised gift. Like, it doesn't have to be extravagant. You spoke about budget. You could just do, a really cool sort of personalised Christmas card with photos of their activations or at hospitality. And you could even put that the number of Christmases you've been together in it. You can get other people around the office to, take an office Christmas photo, like a family photo. That's personal, it's fun, shows some personality. And in today's environment where we can actually, we can make 1 card or 2 cards. We don't have to order a box of 500 or 1,000. It's definitely achievable. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of personality, plus it's personalised.
Hell yeah. And I think something like a personalised little video around the office would be really cool too. It was just a 30-second video where you get 10 or so staff that had some impact upon that partnership, whether they're an events person, media, whatever it might be. Just go around the office with a selfie stick and just get them to say...
Blair Witch Project.
Don't trip over. And then just get each person to say 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it might be, about what was important to them and thank that partner, etc. Right?
Yeah,
so
I like that idea.
Personal.
Yeah, I like that idea. Number 4?
Number 4 is set out a plan for 2018. So what I mean by here is you get to talk about this is what we're doing moving forward. This is a big sort of anniversary year, for example. Involve them in that discussion. So look to say, look, a good example might be if you're in the W League, you're in the middle of the year, the season's not over. So 2018 for us looks to be finals where we'd love to see you activating through this, etc. So you're giving some examples of how and where they're going to have an even better year in 2018.
Yeah, I think a key point there is not everybody knows that not all sports run the calendar year. We've got loads of clients, particularly overseas, well, no, fair number in Australia actually, that they're in the middle of their season now. Cricket, W League, baseball. It would be naive for you to think that your sponsors, if you are a rights holder who run within a calendar year and it's off season now, don't forget that your sponsors are probably having lots of contact and conversations with other rights holders who, at the end of the day, you're competing with. And this, if you just down tools, it could be a 2 or 3 month period where they don't even focus on you at all. Yeah. You come back in the new year, you're super energized. Maybe you needed to lose 5 kilos over the Christmas period. You're really pumped about the year, and they're like, well, we're really focusing on this at the moment. So it is a great opportunity to set out a plan for 2018 or reinforce it if you've already got it, because you probably wouldn't be that top of mind at this time of year.
Exactly. That's a really good point.
Great. So set out a plan for 2018. Number 5.
Just really, this is a really basic one, right? But just set out your office hours and perhaps a next meeting with them too, right? So don't just assume because Christmas and New Year is coming that that your commercial partner will have that same time off that you will, and 2, expect you to literally tools down completely, right? So what it might be is just a little note, a little email, something to say, these are actually our reduced hours, I'm available on my mobile, whatever, just something really basic like that makes a difference, right? Rather than just the point of assuming.
Oh, assuming is a great word, because I think it is easy to assume this time of year that we finish work this week, you, as in the listener, might only have 2 weeks off, and you come back. That might be actually the point in time where the people that you want to chat to at your sponsors and your brands, that's when they take off. So don't forget that we're in a summer period. It's 6 or 7 weeks of school holidays, and probably not everybody is in the office until the end of January together again. So don't assume that just when you come back, everybody's going to be contactable. So you can lose a lot of momentum through middle of January and late January.
Yeah, definitely. And good point there, losing that momentum, and that's the last thing you want to do. Even if it is mid-season, that's the last thing you want to do, is actually let conversations go astray, put pause on your planning, a lot of those things. So.
Absolutely. So those 5 things is thank the partner and focus on the number of Christmases together. Summarise what a great year you've had together. Number 3, provide a small personalised gift. And we could actually potentially bring those 3 things together.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 4, set out a plan for 2018. Number 5 is set out the office hours and next meeting expectations. If you want to read that blog in detail, that letter, Sam's written it to himself. You just head along to SponServe.net/blog and you can read that in its entirety. Sam, I thought you might like to take us out with a Christmas carol.
Goodness, no chance. My little boy Harvey would love me to sing Jingle Bells, I think, but that is definitely not happening.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Have a Merry Christmas, guys.
OTT is exploding, and there are a wide range of opportunities for rights holders who get it right, and then subsequently sponsors. Trend number 5 in Nielsen Sports Commercial Trends in Sport 2017 is that live sport is gaining traction on OTT and social media. And one man who has been on the OTT trail from the early days is Chris Wagner, EVP and co-founder at NeuLion. For 14 years, NeuLion has been a worldwide leader in specialising in digital video broadcasting, distribution and monetization. And NeuLion deliver live and on-demand content to every internet-enabled device imaginable. And Chris has been a driving force in the technology industry, and he's worked closely with executives from major corporations and entrepreneurs who have relied on technology to support the growth of their businesses. Chris has held numerous executive positions in the technology sector. The growth of internet television on computers, tablets, mobiles and internet-connected devices has given Chris an opportunity to work closely with the largest brands in the sports and entertainment industry, including the NFL, NHL, UFC, NBA, Univision, Dish Networks and many others. Here's Chris to discuss the OTT landscape and how rights holders and sponsors can capitalise on it. Chris Wagner, welcome to the show.
Daniel, thank you for having me.
We always have a little bit of fun and kick off the show with some easy icebreaker questions just to help the audience get to know you a little bit better. First icebreaker question we ask is, if you could be anyone else in the world for a day, who would you be and why?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I'm going to pick Jordan Spieth, a professional golfer, because I'd love to see and feel like a professional golfer for at least 24 hours. So that's who I'd pick, Jordan Spieth.
Very good. Second icebreaker question is, what was your first ever job?
I was the manager of a community pool where I lived, and had to make sure that nobody drowned, that I hired the right lifeguards, and that the snack bar was always full. That was my first job.
And probably in that order.
Exactly right.
Now, Chris, as an executive VP, you'd have a fairly broad responsibility. I might ask that question again, actually. Hang on 2 secs, 420. Chris, as an executive VP, you'd have a fairly broad responsibility, but also a challenging one considering how much digital has and still continues to change. Can you tell us a little bit about your role and what your main areas of focus are?
Okay. Yeah. Right now, I focus... I co-founded the company, been with the company, start the company's strategy in the marketplace, things around TV everywhere, over the top, streaming, what new markets we can get into, not just, we started in North America, we've expanded into Europe, we now have a really nice presence in Asia. We're probably one of the largest streamers of U.S. sports in Australia when you take into account the NFL, NBA, and others. I also look after acquisitions the company thinks make sense as part of its growth strategy, and we've done some of those. And then generally how we communicate in the marketplace. Those are all kind of the core things I look after each day.
Chris, you're a co-founder at NueLion, having founded the company back in 2004. What sort of opportunities did you see back then in this space, and how right or wrong do you think you've been in how it's played out so far?
No, good question, Daniel. We started in 2004, and we launched our first internet TV service in 2006. I would think, we were a little bit early, I think, in terms of where the marketplace is now. Certainly streaming live sports on any kind of device is a must. Back then, it was an idea. And I can remember people, we would say, hey, you can watch television on your phone or on your computer. And people would go, why would I want to do that? I have my television set, my satellite receiver, or my cable box. And we knew there was an opportunity to change how entertainment could be delivered to fans, whether it's sports entertainment or, movies or other forms of entertainment. And, I think we were a little bit early, but we've perfected the platform. And, as we'll talk, have done a significant amount of streaming for really big sports rights holders, and now we're expanding into other markets that are not just sports but also news and entertainment in addition to sports. But our roots and where we started was in the sports space. We actually started with NHL hockey and launched a service for them called Game Center Live, which gave fans the ability to watch live hockey on any type of device, and then from there, went into all types of other sports.
Was there much in the early days where you doubted? You said you moved fairly early in the space. Was there many times where you doubted whether you'd done the right thing, or did you always know it was just going to be a matter of time before it really came into its own?
Well, we knew the internet allows you to scale, right? So it's a small world when you think about the internet, because you can use it as a way of distributing video. The other thing that's neat about the internet is you can have a whole conversation with a fan, and you can let the fans kind of interact and lean forward and really get into the match or the game. And that was our vision. I think back when we started, a lot of things have improved from an infrastructure standpoint. So internet speeds have gotten faster. Video compression over the internet has gotten better. new video formats like 4K and virtual reality and augmented reality. I mean, these are all new ways to reach people, and it's going to be delivered on the internet. So digital sports, if you will, have only gotten better. And I think at this point in time, we're talking today on your podcast, I would say that video qualities delivered digitally are better. I mean, they're 4K, 4x quality of HD. And as internet services for your listeners get bigger and stronger, then their opportunity to watch live sports in a higher quality that's more interactive, cable and satellite are just not going to be able to catch up. So it's going to become, for content rights holders of sports, the primary way to interface with their fans.
Yes, it is. It is very exciting, and the opportunities will keep presenting themselves. Now, Chris, as I mentioned to the listeners when I introduced you, we have you on the show as an industry expert to discuss trend number 5 in Nielsen Sports Commercial Trends in Sport 2017. And that trend is live sport gaining more and more traction on OTT and social media. Now, I'm guessing that the situation around the world is reasonably similar to that of where I am in Australia, where you can stream live sport on your devices for free as part of your existing pay TV package quite often. So why is OTT positioned as such a big trend and opportunity if existing pay TV networks already provide live sport via streaming? Because yes, rights holders will sell to the highest bidder, but doesn't that just really feel like it fragments audiences and potentially even diminishes audiences in some cases?
Well, it's a very good question. And I think the trends that you see around the world with OTT puts pressure on the traditional way that sports have been distributed, meaning that content rights holders now, for far less cost, can deliver live sports direct to the consumer. So if you're live skateboarding, live poker, live football, mixed martial arts, world surfing we have as a customer. These are all content owners that feel that they really understand their fans in a unique way and believe that they can market directly to those fans in a unique way and bring, grow their audience. So the traditional distributor of satellite and cable really caters to many different audiences and large lists of TV channels, and it's very difficult to really personalize an experience for a particular fan of any of the different sports I've just mentioned. So the trend you're seeing around the world, it kind of is twofold. One is being able to personalize a sport experience for a specific fan, which is just impossible on traditional satellite and cable because it's a one-to-many platform. So you have that trend that's happening around the world. And then you also have the ability to seamlessly watch high-quality live sports on any device. So if you happen to be on the move, if it's your mobile device, maybe you're at work, it's your computer, maybe you're at home and your wife's watching, a love movie and, and you want to watch live sports, yeah, you can do that. So this ability to seamlessly move across any device, it's live and it's high quality, creates an opportunity for sports rights holders to connect with fans all the time. And it's very difficult to take your satellite receiver and your TV with you on your way to the office. So with smartphones becoming cheaper and faster, with video qualities getting better and better, and with technology allowing you to really understand who your fans are, connect with those fans, interact with those fans, it just makes digital distribution of sports really the future for everything because of all the things I've just said. It just is a better platform, and distributors of broadband services are going to be the winners. Distributors of satellite receivers and cable boxes are going to have to move to broadband related content with the content that they license, because that's where the fan base is going.
Oh, I think it's a great comment, very insightful around the being able to personalise the broadcast, and particularly because the rights holder best understands the audience and the fans that they're trying to reach, and they should be very excited about the opportunities to interact with those fans. Chris, what are the stats around consumption of OTT live sport? I'm particularly interested in, you mentioned it a couple of times about taking your phone, and you can't take your satellite dish and your box with you when you go to the office. So I'm particularly interested in how much OTT is consumed inside the home versus outside the home.
Right. That's another good question. I mean, just to give you a sense of scale, last year NeuLion streamed over 63,000 sports events. So within that number, you have customers of ours like Rugby Pass out of Singapore, which that company has been aggregated. And your listeners can go to Google Rugby Pass, and you can sign up at the subscription. And you have all these rights holders moving to direct to consumer, kind of over the top streaming. So that's 63,000 live events. Over 60% of the viewers of those live events started the video on a mobile device. So mobile traffic within the 63,000 live events we did last year, over 60% of those starts have been on mobile. The kind of the reverse of that number is where you're physically located at the time. If you happen to be home, then we see the engagement time on larger screens being much longer than mobile, meaning you're sitting in your house, you've connected your Apple TV, or you've connected your Sony PlayStation, or maybe your Xbox to your television, and you're watching a rugby match. You compare the engagement time on that large screen with engagement time on a mobile screen. As you might guess, you're home, you're in your living room or room, and you're watching 3 times longer than what we see on mobile engagement. But the connection to the fan and the starting of the video is predominantly mobile. And over the last couple of years, we've seen, in general, internet traffic continue to grow year over year. And when you get to 63,000 live events, quick math, you're doing over 100 live events a day to do that in a year. And when you think about the connection to the consumer, it has to be on all the leading mobile devices, all the leading game consoles, all the leading connected devices like maybe a Chromecast or an Apple TV or a game consoles. And then you have all the smart television providers, Sony, Samsung, and LG being the 3 biggest, that any television you buy now, right, during the holiday season, certainly 4K, Ultra HD is what everybody's buying. They're all smart TVs. They all connect to the internet. They all have their Netflix-like stores inside of their TV ecosystems, and it makes it very simple, to find these online events and these online sporting events, and using your broadband connection, connect and watch and personalize.
Do you consume much sport via OTT yourself?
I live on my smartphone. I just got a new Apple 10, and yes, I mean, for me, if I'm home, if I'm watching something on traditional satellite or cable, I'll use my smartphone to almost as a second screen. Much as I hate to use that word, but I use that screen to complement what I'm watching, whether I'm on social media, whether I'm watching highlights. Maybe I'm watching another game. If I'm a rugby fan, I could be watching, a team that I support on the big screen, but I may have next week's game with a competitor on my phone, as an example. But yes, I consume a significant amount of video. And if you look at the internet in general, I mean, most of the surveys will tell you that, by 2019, 95% of it is going to be video traffic. So as, the big online platforms continue to grow in size, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, you're going to see more and more content available through those big stores. and people who own sports rights are going to want to connect with audiences digitally, right? So they're going to have their own services like the Rugby Pass service I mentioned, but they're also going to syndicate their content through other stores that are online stores. And you saw that in the U.S. The NFL licensed their Thursday night football game to Amazon. So Amazon paid a rights fee that was 5 times the fee that Twitter had paid the year before just to stream that Thursday night NFL game.
Wow.
And you see Twitter doing the same thing with live sports. You see Facebook doing the same thing with live sports. So the audiences are moving to digital. And if you're a sports rights holder, you want to not only connect with the fan directly, but you also want to be able to connect to the fan through some of these other big.
I can definitely relate to those comments about multiple screens, because we've had 2 laptops set up in front of the big TV on some Friday and Saturday nights in my household. You also mentioned about rights holders wanting to connect more with their audiences, and with OTT, a broadcaster can buy the rights from a rights holder, or the rights holder can obviously broadcast and be the broadcaster themselves. Do you have much of a sense of what the ratio is at the moment around sport, and do you see it changing much?
Well, I think that SportCal is a service that we work with that tracks sports right transactions. And over the last 2 years, if you look at companies that own sports rights for a year or longer, there were over 1,700 transactions. I mean, you take the Olympics coming up. There are over 83 companies that own rights. So in the U.S., NBC owns those rights. In Australia, I don't know if it's Foxtel or who would be the rights holder in Australia for the Olympics. But rights are very fragmented, and because they're so fragmented, and because those costs are increasing at such a rapid rate, you have this drive to connect with the fan. I will say that still, most of the viewing is happening on traditional television. When I say television, I mean through a satellite receiver or through a cable box. I think if you talk to lots of our customers, they define TV as whatever the screen is you have in front of your face at that time. So I think the word television is changing, but most of the viewing, even on our call today, still is on traditional satellite and traditional cable. But you're seeing, that change pretty significantly, right? I mean, you have the Olympics, you have the NFL, you have other big sports, NBA, where the viewing is spreading out now across multiple devices. So just measuring the audience in the ratings simply on traditional television may be growing. In some cases it's not. It's because viewers are spreading out now across all these different connected devices or a different way to engage with that sport.
It's interesting. You mentioned the Olympics a couple of times there, and my mind went back to the 2000 Olympics, where my boss was away for a significant period of time. So we got permission to take over his office, and we hung a white bed sheet at one end, and we connected, I think we connected a video recorder to a projector, and we watched some very poor images of the Sydney Olympics. But I'm guessing now that it would be way easier to get the office together and watch live sport. You mentioned before about rights holders, again, wanting to take more control and engage with the audience. How much of OTT is being driven by the rights holders wanting more of that control and engagement rather than just simply, here's a revenue stream that we can tap into?
I think it's a combination of things. I mean, if you think about what you're going to keep in today's marketplace is to watch a sporting event, everything else is moving. And so the world of watching movies, news, and entertainment allows you to watch on your own schedule. So appointment TV is pretty much going away with the exception of sports. Sports is the last thing that you really want to be there when it happens, because watching it recorded or hearing about it or, getting a box score later, you don't get the same pleasure out of seeing it live. So live sports is really the last big event that everybody shows up for, and that's one of the reasons it drives such high fees for sports rights because it keeps the big audiences. And it's those big audiences that they, for occurrence, that it's a tentpole event, something like Olympics, and they have the behavior of this wants to connect to that live match, that wants to connect on any device that they're on. So you have that behavior, and then you have the rights holder wanting to know more about you, because if they can deliver the programming that you really want to watch, they know that you're going to be engaged longer. And if you're online and or engaged longer, then they have a better opportunity to run more ads in front of you, cross-sell you into something. Take the UFC as an example, which is mixed martial arts we stream in Australia. 2 products, UFC.tv and UFC Fight Pass. You can go into that service and pick the type of fighter you like to watch. You can pick both live and on demand. They have a very large MMA library. You can even go into the library and say, hey, I only have a half hour to an hour of time, and I'd like to see, match knockouts, right? And then the library will change in front of your eyes, and the content that gets positioned in front of you meets that exact request. So you have kind of a number of different things happen at the same time. You have these big audiences showing up. You have that won't consume content on any device, and then you have the rights holder wanting to personalize that experience so they can get you engaged for a longer period of time. I mentioned UFC. I mean, imagine slow motion, replay, watching that fight from 4 or 5 different angles, being able to report your score of a round and have that compared with the judges and the rest of the audience, so you can do round scoring, seeing all the live stats, in addition to picking and choosing the type of content you want to watch. You just can't do that on satellite or cable, and that's with live sports streaming.
It's interesting that you made those comments around appointment TV, and it occurred to me, you mentioned about how you want to be there to see the live sport happening. The other factor at play there, it'd be interesting to get your view, is that there's a bit of an etiquette around TV shows and movies, because they're, a lot of the time appointment-based, or they have been in the past, with no spoilers. But with sport, it's almost impossible to avoid spoilers, particularly on social media around live sport.
I agree with you. I mean, we actually have a switch in most of our services called a spoiler alert, and you could switch it on or off. So if you missed a rugby match, or let's say you joined, an hour into the match, you can set up your profile so the spoiler is turned off. So to you, it feels like, the start. You get to see the match progress as it normally would. You get to see the stats. It basically starts when you're ready to watch. But you're right. You can't, you have to have not to go to Twitter or go somewhere else, because you're going to see the score. But yeah, you're right. It's happening all around you. So that's again why sports is such a, it becomes that last appointment that you want to keep. I mean, even with entertainment, I'm a big Game of Thrones watcher, and there's some new series on Netflix really. It only becomes available. You don't necessarily have to watch it Sunday at 5 p.m. Right? You can catch it later that evening or even the next day. And it's not the same kind of spoiler that you might feel in comparison to a rugby match where you really didn't want to see the score until you had a chance to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, I've, over the years, trained myself religiously to turn my phone off and leave it off, like power it down to avoid spoilers, particularly with sports that I've recorded overnight that might have been somewhere else in the world. And you sit on the lounge watching the replay of that game through your satellite box, the amount of times you reach for your phone just out of habit, because that's the second screen you have while you're watching the TV, and you go to reach for your phone, it's not there because you've left it in the bedroom completely turned off, is mildly disturbing at this end. Now, Chris, one of the frustrating things for global sports fans like myself, particularly in different time zones from major areas of the world, it's quite frustrating because it's often a heavily considered topic in awarding major sporting events. We spoke about the Olympics before, football World Cups, because of where the largest audiences are and how that has a flow-on effect to sponsors. The frustrating thing is that OTT doesn't, or at least I haven't seen it, provide the opportunity to record the event for later consumption, like I just spoke about, like pay TV boxes do, or even sometimes with the streaming services I've used, but even just simply be able to pause it to go to the toilet. That just diminishes the audiences. Do you see that changing anytime soon?
Well, Daniel, I mean, if you take the NFL as an example, so as an NFL fan, you can watch the live game. You can DVR during the live game at any time to go back and start it over. So we record the live game on the fly. At the end of the game, we produce two assets. There's a full game archive, which allows you to, again, rewatch it, or maybe you missed the live game and you want to watch it as if it were live, like I explained earlier by turning the spoiler alerts off. But we also create another product called Snap to Whistle, which takes out every interruption. So an NFL game typically is 3 hours in duration, 2.5 hours in duration. You can get the Snap to Whistle game in 40 minutes. So the service actually takes out every timeout, every commercial, every injury issue. I mean, basically condenses it into snap, whistle, and you get a 30 to 40 minute football game. So you have that happening. We did the World Cup for Univison here in the United States, talking about mobile. We were cutting highlights actually during the live stream. So whenever there was a great goal, a yellow card, a crossing, any highlight that was deemed important, it was actually cut out of the live stream and then syndicated out to your mobile device. So we had a whole bunch of fans that weren't even watching the live broadcast. They were just watching the in-match highlights, that they were getting these 30, 60-minute clips as the whole match was progressing. And there was a big part of that audience that preferred to watch the in-match highlights because maybe they were doing something, maybe they were running around, but maybe it's on their mobile device. It just allowed them to consume the game in a totally different way. So that's what's happening with digital. It gives you the ability to really package up the content in a bunch of different types of services like I've just mentioned, and then leave it up to the fan to decide of the sample is the way that they would watch that particular sport.
I think as you were talking about all those great features, it occurred to me that maybe I've just had some really poor experiences with some service providers. And so, I mean, I think the message there for rights holders that are listening to the show, if you are going to go down the path of having more control and streaming it yourself, please consider the end consumer and don't just stream for the sake of streaming and you can't pause it and you can't record it and you don't really package and edit it up. Do it properly from the start because you'll have our loyalty, and to be honest, we'll probably pay more money for it.
I mean, I'll just throw one thing out, Danny. World Surf, it's live surfing events. To your point, simple streaming on YouTube was really not to the fans' benefit. And, we launched a new service with them. The first feature was being able to do instant replay slow motion of surfing. So imagine a great run, being able to go back, and probably a lot of your listeners are World Surf League fans because we do a lot of live events in Australia, to watch and experience that ride with the control in your hand of being able to move that rider back and forth in slow motion, fast forward, and doing simple streaming. Sure, you can stream it over YouTube, but being able to really interact as a surfing fan, back for them, for World Surf League in terms of viewers and
great feature. Not sure it's going to help me be a better surfer, Chris. How do rights holders and brands measure the impact and the return on investment on the sponsorship and the advertising scene in streamed events?
Well, I would say I don't have a percentage for you, but the subscription business is very different than the advertising business when it relates to streaming. So if you look at the different business models that are in the marketplace, You have the model of getting live sport on any one of your devices because you currently pay for a satellite service. And because you pay for a satellite service, they've worked out an opportunity with a live sport provider to allow you to sign in with your satellite credentials and watch. It's kind of the pay TV everywhere market. So you have that business model. You also have the direct-to-consumer business model that is subscription-based, and many of the customers we have put those live services behind a paywall, and a fan with a credit card, like Rugby Pass as my example, the ability to watch live matches, really not as an advertised-based model, but more as a subscription-based model. And many of the OTT services that we see around the world are more lined up around subscription-based services instead of the ad-based services. The third model, which is your question around advertising, World Surf League is a great example, where that service is free, and then they run while you're watching and monetize the revenue that they make. The monetization of those ads is based on how many people are watching and how many ads they do, during a live event. All three models are out there. The authenticated model through the pay TV operator, subscription direct-to-consumer, and advertising. And I would say most of the OTT sports services that we're involved with tend to be subscription-focused versus the other two.
Chris, how do rights holders go about identifying what benefits or inventory they can offer sponsors around OTT live sport? What have you seen rights holders bringing to the table for sponsors and integrating them in?
Many of the rights holders will work with sponsors in a variety of ways. They look at their content across different platforms. Here in the United States, the NFL and Verizon did a deal specifically around mobile. Verizon's a big mobile around certain packages of games. The NFL has done sponsor deals with their sport calendar, but with selected games out of that sport calendar. There could be a deal just for highlights, where you get 3 to 5 minute highlight packages during live events. The World Cup soccer work that we've done, or it could just be pre and post game shoulder commentary. Where you get all of the action leading up to the game itself, player coaches interviews, post game TV conferences. All those are opportunities to package that content up with different economics and then offer that content and those packages in different ways to different sponsors. So that's the other interesting thing about digital. It does allow you to create these content packages and then offer those content packages in different scenarios, again, around kind of a menu idea to sponsors. And it's difficult to do on satellite and cable, because the platform itself doesn't really allow you to create those kind of packages.
This one's a bit of an...
Does that make sense?
It does absolutely make sense. This one's a bit of an out there question. What about brands? Do you think a brand would ever be attracted to maybe diverting sponsorship and advertising dollars and truly owning an OTT channel as part of their marketing?
You mean like a consumer brand, or typically a consumer product, like
yes,
like take Intel as an example. Intel, makes chips for computers. Intel also has a virtual reality line of cameras, and here in the U.S., they actually bought the rights from Major League Baseball to create a VR game of the week. And as a sponsor, they own the rights, and they get to promote their platform and product around this, emerging video experience called VR. And they did that specifically with the rights holder. I think you see the same thing happening with manufacturers of televisions. Samsung, LG, and Sony have become rights buyers to kind of promote their brands. Samsung's also been a big sponsor of World Surf League, which I talked about. I think you see consumer products, probably the earliest and most advanced is Red Bull, who have created, a whole line of live events around action sports to really solidify their brand. And they've been pretty successful not only with live events, but also with Red Bull TV, which is delivered over the top. So I do think you see big consumer product companies, again, trying to connect with the fan directly and create kind of an in-product experience, if you will, around video content. Websites are publishers, and those publishers of content can also publish video content. You can create your own OTT service around it.
Moving away from live sports, are many rights holders creating non-live sport content, such as, say, regularly scheduled shows that aren't actually the live sport being streamed?
There are. That's another opportunity. We here in the U.S. we have a customer called the Big Ten Network, which is college football, and college football in the U.S. has a really passionate fan base. Big college football, big college basketball, and they're creating content around the game that makes the fan feel closer to the players and the coaches. They're actually working with Amazon in this case to help produce non-game content that is a way of pulling the fan in closer to the experiences of players and coaches. And it's content that is surfacing, before and after the live event that, again, keeps you connected, makes you more passionate, wants you to want more. But we're starting to see a lot of complementary content around these live events that, again, allow the fan to always be connected. So those are more on-demand type of offerings. So as we were talking earlier, you can sample any of that on-demand content leading up to the match or after the match. But again, the plan is to keep the fan connected all the time, right? Surfing's another good example. The people you hang out with, the things that you buy, the clothes you wear, the equipment you're interested in. It's a lifestyle, and having content that connects with that lifestyle, not just the live event, is going to make you more successful.
It's a lifestyle, and it's also an identity. It's who people are, and they feel a very strong connection with that. I think that's an insightful comment. Chris, do you have any great tips for employees to access OTT live sport at work, yet hide it from their boss?
Yeah, that's called a smartphone and a mute button. These in-match highlights that I was talking about are typically, 60-second to 1-minute spots. You have that way of sampling live events, but no, I don't want to get anybody fired. But there's certainly an amount of stuff out there to watch, more than you have time, actually. If you add up all the things I'd like to watch, news, entertainment, and sports, there's just not enough time in a day if I'm going to stay employed.
I agree. I just keep falling further and further behind with what I need to watch. Chris, you've been a star by giving up some of your valuable time to come on the show, particularly this time of year. It's very busy. We've all got a lot of stuff on. So it's only fair that we give you a great chance to plug NeuLion and how you can help people.
Well, NeuLion, and thank you for that. I enjoyed the conversation. We work with a lot of companies that own sports rights. We have a big movie service in France with a big retailer called Carrefour, No Limit Films. So one of the things that we've been able to do is help our partners who own content get that content to market quickly. So we can launch an OTT service in 8 to 10 weeks. We can handle both live and on-demand content. And we have this ability to help you package your content and offer to consumers in different ways. You can market in different packages, different prices. So that unlocks the value of your content. I think that's one of the things we're good at, is helping experience for fans, doing it fast, monetizing it, and then helping our customers, our partners, many that I've mentioned, kind of grow their business over time.
The phrase always leave them wanting more is the basic idea behind one of the simplest marketing strategies, the free trial. And for those interested in learning more about growing their OTT business, NueLion have a fantastic ebook out called From Lead to Customer, Turning Free Trials into Paid Accounts. It's a great resource. So whether you're neck deep in OTT or you just want to understand some of the strategies for attracting and engaging subscribers, it'd be a great resource for you to check out. So we will put a link to the ebook in the show notes at SponServe.net. Chris, if people want to get in touch with you, connect on social media, etc., what can they do?
You can reach out to me on Twitter. You can write to me directly to NeuLion, which is probably even easier. It's just chris.wagner at NeuLion.com. NeuLion's NeuLion. But just write to me. Yeah, we'd love to connect.
Chris Wagner,
So
EVP
many
and co-founder
opportunities
at NeuLion.
for everyone
Thank you so
on the
much for
OTT
taking us
front, but
inside live
clearly
sport,
you need
gaining
to
traction
execute
on
it
OTT,
properly.
especially
Thank you,
if you
Daniel.
expect to
Enjoyed
use
it.
it as a channel to increase your sponsorship, or if you're a brand expecting to use it to access your target audience. Be sure to head to the show notes at SponServe.net for a link to NeuLion's great ebook, From Lead to Customer, Turning Free Trials into Paid Accounts, or even head directly to NeuLion's blog at NeuLion.com. If you'd like to connect with Chris, you can do so on Twitter using the handle at WAGCH01 or email him on chris.wagner, WAGNER, at NeuLion.com. That's about all we have time for in episode 50. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all our clients and our listeners an awesome holiday period. Enjoy yourself, have fun with the family, but above all, please stay safe. If you want to connect with me, you can do so on LinkedIn. Just search for Daniel Oyston or drop me an email at daniel@sponserve.net or on Twitter using the handle @SponServe. And if you want to connect with Sam Irvine, you can email him on sam@sponserve.net or also find him on LinkedIn. Don't forget you can follow SponServe on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter and Instagram. Just search for SponServe. Until next time, I'm Daniel Oyston. Thanks for listening to Inside Sponsorship.
Thanks for listening to the show. For more episodes, blogs and resources, head to SponServe.net or search for SponServe on Facebook, Twitter or LinkedIn.